Hello, everybody.
Hello,
How's everybody
everyone.
doing? Welcome, everybody, to another marketing masterclass. This time, all about coaching program design. We are joined by Abe Crystal, who we will introduce to you shortly. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, I thought I would do some intros just so we all know who we are and what we're doing here. So, my name is Simon Batchelor, and I'm one of the co founders of Better, Bolder, Braver. So we host these masterclasses with different guests that we bring in on different topics. And as I said, today is going to be an exciting one all about coaching program design that I know a lot of our audience are really excited about. So Francis, over to you.
Thank you, Simon. Hi, everyone. I am Frances Chalasji. I am the other co founder of the Better, Bolder, Braver community, and I'm delighted to be back with you all after a little summer break that Simon and I have taken from the Marketing Masterclass series. And who better to kick off the last quarter of this calendar year than a very good friend of mine, Abe Crystal. Abe and I met on a really important learning journey of our own called Altitude, which we attended a couple of months ago, which is a happy startup school happening. And we have become firm friends for life, as is what happens on Altitude and when you get together with like minded individuals and share openly what it is you're trying to achieve. And I thought it'd be really interesting to have Abe be a guest on our marketing class because what Simon and I are trying to achieve is we're on a mission, as I have mentioned in the description of this event, to help coaches to create products and services that stand out and support their mission, their own mission, to help their ideal clients. And it's also really important to Simon and me that we do that at the same time as reminding them that they are trying to build a business and not burn out or overextend themselves. We'd really like for coaches to streamline their marketing and be able to share expertise, and so that people can quickly understand what the value of working with them is. And Abe is an expert in helping people work out what the value of working with them is, build amazing learning journeys by way of courses on a platform that Abe has actually created, but can speak universally to what makes a good learning journey and a good platform. And is also in the business of guiding guides as to how to market those courses so that they don't burn out. So we thought he'd be a wonderful person to have a conversation with about those things. So welcome, Abe. And I think first everyone would love to hear from you. I just want to invite everyone who's live, which looks like quite a few of you, to say hi in the chat if you haven't already. And also, we'd love to know if you already have a course that you provide for your ideal clients, or if you're thinking about building a course, or if you've built one and you're thinking about how best to market it, do let us know in the chat. Be really helpful. And if you have any questions or comments, there's a few experts here on the subjects of learning journeys and hey Dara, hey everyone, oh lovely to see everyone here, and also platforms. So geek out to your heart's content, and we will do our best to weave your ideas into the chat. I think off the bat it would be lovely for everyone to understand, Abe, from you why you are in this business and what your background is and how you're an authority and expert as you are on these matters.
Thanks. Well, thanks for having me here. And I don't really want to talk too long about myself, but to answer your question, I got here through a somewhat circuitous route of being interested in just the research side of learning, and I did a Ph.D. focused on kind of how students manage their information and interact with technology in their education. But I got burned out of research. Carlos, other people could probably talk about that side of things. So yeah, got more interested in product design and building something people could actually use on a day-to-day basis. And So that's led us in two directions over time, I guess. One is the Ruzuku course platform, which is just a tool for building and hosting your own courses. And that came out of conversations with bloggers, speakers, other people who are creating coaches, other people creating content, expertise, sharing ideas on the internet, but talking to them and realizing that it was really hard for them to actually sell their work, right, or support people, support their clients in a deeper way. And so Ruzuku came out of hearing those challenges and trying to provide just better support for enabling experts to engage with their clients online and to create more, interactive and meaningful learning experiences beyond just, sharing a video or posting content. And then our second direction that took us in over the last few years is we realized that there's a lot of ways to use courses in your business. People might often think of, hey, I need to have like my own signature course that's based on my own kind of proprietary insights or methodology that I'm going to build from scratch and teach it to my clients. And there's definitely a role for that type of course, and that's often a core revenue stream for people. But there's many other ways that you can serve your clients with courses, including offering free mini courses to attract prospective clients, using them to nurture people to be ready to work with you, using them as bonuses to strengthen your offers, and incorporating them into your coaching methods or into communities that you offer. And you can really, and we can talk about a more detailed model for that and how to implement that broad idea. But it's just not realistic for most like independent, coaches, speakers, thought leaders to create all these different courses from scratch, right? If you're going to have a lead generation course, a nurture course, courses that integrate with your coaching, courses for bonuses, courses for retention and building community, you could wind up having this library of, 8, 10, 12, 15 different courses over time. And like most people are busy, like working with their clients and, running events and doing other things, right? You don't necessarily have all this like course creation time in your schedule. So that hearing that kind of challenge led us in the direction of creating instant courses, which are done for you courses. They're created by professional instructional designers. They're written out, for you to use with all the marketing materials integrated as well. So you basically just white label them and use them however you like under your brand. So if you wanted to just have a course on goal setting without creating one yourself from scratch, or have a course on effective listening to offer to your clients without creating it from scratch, you can just pull that from our library and drop it into your business. So yeah, those are really basically the two problems that motivate us and that we continue to work on, is making it easier for people to share their expertise, serve their clients, but also to build a more like robust, I guess you could say, education-based business by having this full set of courses around what you do.
Wow, there is so much there that you've just peppered us with, at the beginning of this conversation, and obviously loads of directions that we can go in. But the one that, really speaks to me is how to avoid burnout by trying to do everything yourself. And actually, what's the need to reinvent the wheel as a coach? If, I love the idea of integrating a course as part of the coaching service. So the idea of kind of dovetailing maybe one-to-one or group coaching with the underpinning of a course, which is actually what Simon and I do. I'm pleased to say. We have a course which we give people access to, and when we do one-to-one coaching with them and we support them as a community, what we're also doing is encouraging them to work through the course material, but there's no pressure to do so. And if there's no pressure, then if you put a lot of time and energy disproportionately perhaps into actually building the course, it's going to either burn you out to try and do that along with, as you say, all the other things that you're trying to do, or and it's just not necessary. So to all the listeners here live and to the recording, who are probably thinking, but my method is is incredibly original, and I've done a lot of work to work out why my coaching is different to anyone else's. And of course, in our marketing, we're constantly looking for people to identify how they stand out over and above another coach for their particular ideal client. What would you say to that kind of mindset around how could you possibly be building a core set of content that already exists, but at the same time reflects my sort of niche expertise?
Right. So I think it's important to distinguish that there's two different approaches, and you can think of them as synergistic, right? It's not one or the other. So the one approach is building a course or coaching program that is based on your unique insights and approach. And that makes sense, right? And for many people, that will be a core piece of what you do. Surrounding that, however, are many other types of courses or learning you could be offering to your clients that are not necessarily based on your core proprietary or unique expertise, right? They're more based on general best practices, but that are highly relevant to your clients, and they're complementary to the core work that you're doing. So examples of that would be like if your core work is as a business coach and you have a unique method you've developed to help people create more efficient operations and run a more profitable business, right? That would be your core course or signature coaching program. But around that, you may see that your clients struggle with a number of other related issues, right? You notice that they don't like set and manage goals very effectively, but you don't really consider yourself a goal setting person, or like that's not an area you've done a lot of research on. But there are best practices on goal setting, and you follow them yourself in your work. So you would bring those best practices to your clients to help them get more effective at goal setting. And that might be as part of a core program that you offer, or it might be as an extension, right? Like they go through your core program, and then you say, okay, now that you've mastered my core techniques, let's put them into practice, right? By going through this goal setting program together. So it could be a really good upsell or continuity offer to have people progress into, right? Like something that we really, really emphasize a lot is the importance of thinking about your work in terms of customer lifetime value. Because we see, again, a lot of people get very focused on like just selling that one course, right? Or selling that one coaching program or package. But the healthiest businesses and the ones that are really sustainable over time are not reliant on having to continually get another client in to buy that one offer, right? You are also selling more and serving more your existing clients, right? So what we really, like to see is, okay, you have that maybe core course or coaching program, you have people progress through that, and then that's not the end of the journey, right? At that point, you should think about, okay, what is a more advanced program that they're going to flow into? What do they need help with at the end of that first course? Or could they alternatively progress into a membership or community where you are offering them support, but potentially also new content and techniques on an ongoing basis? So that's another way that we see people integrating the pre-developed content into their work. Is it's a way to fill out a community schedule very effectively, right? Imagine, for example, you want to have a year-long content calendar for your membership. Well, that's a lot of content to create unless you can just pull from the library, right? So, hey, in January to kick off the year, we know people want to set goals and resolutions. We're going to have content on goal setting. In February, we know people are going to be starting to fall off a bit. So we're going to have content on motivation and sticking with those challenging goals and so on. And you can just, flesh that out for the whole year very readily. So those are just examples, but to recap the answer to your core question, absolutely it makes sense to have your core, proprietary, your unique frame that you bring to the world. And it can make a lot of sense to have courses that complement and support that. And those can be based on best practices, and you don't necessarily need to be developing those entirely from scratch.
I mean, this is obviously already gold dust to a lot of people, and Anya has posted in the chat that she likes this insight and it's really useful. And Anya and I were in a session this morning in the Better Builder Braver community, and we were Anya came up with a great phrase that storytelling as a service, and it's making me think, courses as a service, which is to say, acting as a kind of curator of many things. At the point and meeting your clients where they are, and not having to say, yes, I've this is all original content that I've produced and that's my value, but more my value is that I curate for you where you are a number of amazing things, and I'd rather not be a jack of all trade and a master of none, but my mastery is in the curation of it. And then, as you say,
exactly,
your marketing benefits from this idea that you can just draw content from it. So your course is benefiting the marketing as opposed to the other way around, which is a really lovely way of thinking about it as well.
Yeah, so just two quick things about that sort of curation idea, because I think that is important. So I think it's important to distinguish like curriculum or learning design from coaching. And like a lot of people that are very passionate about coaching and supporting their clients aren't necessarily like steeped in or have a background in like creating an effective course, experience, right? Including how to structure the learning objectives and outline, and how to create, like content that is engaging and aligned with that. Like it's a different skill set in many cases, even though there's overlap with coaching. And so it can actually be a very effective way to play to your strengths as a coach is to draw on strong curriculum design and content that's already been mapped out and made effective for you. And then to focus your time expertise on the coaching side of things, which allows you to focus on helping people actually implement and get results from the program, which ironically is what's missing from so many courses, right? A lot of courses sort of hit you with a wheelbarrow of interesting content and ideas, but they don't give you the coaching and support that's needed in many cases to actually, first of all, work through those ideas, which is challenging in and of itself, right? And often people won't do it without some form of accountability. But then to implement it for your specific situation is also where the coaching often becomes really, really valuable. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity for coaches to think about the balance of their efforts between sort of curriculum design and content creation and coaching, and think about where are the opportunities to spend as much of your time as you can coaching, if that's what you're really good at and really enjoy. But then, from the business side of that, we want to balance that with being able to get some leverage, right? One of the challenges with coaching is it is a fee for service model, right? Or like maybe you get fancy and you have branded packages, and like you're not literally charging dollars per hour, but at the end of the day you are charging dollars per hour, right? And there's only so many appointments you can handle per week, and there's only so much you can charge. So as you start to like fill your practice, it becomes really important to think about how can you get additional leverage. So we encourage people to think about leverage coaching models along the lines of what you were describing, Francis, where you're using a core framework of content and curriculum that clients can go through on their own. And that's not just about viewing content. It's about completing worksheets, doing exercises and assignments, journaling, submitting things to you to review as a coach, and having that be the path into a session. So you can accomplish, in one session, what might have taken, 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 sessions in the past, because there's an on-ramp to it where people have done all this work and made all this progress before they're meeting with you. And you can either do that leverage in a one-to-one coaching model, or you can do it in a small group coaching model. And, that really offers a lot of opportunity, right? You can go from, hey, if you think about the base case, like is one-on-one, right? if you can move to, okay, I can offer the same one-on-one package with the same results, but have meet with people for half as many sessions over 12 weeks or half a year or whatever the time frame is, you're doubling your coaching leverage, right? Just by making that one shift of having people, engage through the online program and then having fewer direct client sessions with them. And then if you then layer on top of that, meeting with people in small groups rather than one-on-one, you can multiply that again by the size of the group, right? If you did dyads, you'd be doubling your leverage again. If you did groups of 4, you'd be quadrupling it. So that's the path, to anywhere from doubling to 8xing, your coaching leverage by using the structure and interaction you can get through an online program.
This is all very juicy, and I think this also dovetails really nicely into the idea of how we price things. And both Simon and I, and also Carlos, talk to pricing for outcome as opposed to for time. As you say, dollars and hours are of course related, pounds and hours, and yet the idea of being able to say the journey of working with me costs this much without having to say that it's that much per hour, because as you say, there may be some touch time in there, but there's also a lot of other meaningful interaction by way of some material, some accountability, some exercises, and maybe opportunities to buddy up with others. But what you're doing is kind of painting this picture of an experience, which is what people are buying. And when you start listening to you now, it starts to feel a lot more creative and experiential than academic, which I think is exhausting. I'm just going to shut my window after I talk. For some people, I'm wondering if people in the chat, in addition to Anya, who's always so generous to share her feedback, kind of feeling similarly to me that this is a way of seeing a course as another opportunity to show your creativity as well as a coach. And whilst people are thinking about it, Simon, who's an expert on the learning journey that we have created, I would like to invite also to comment.
Well, yeah, I think it's interesting hearing what you were saying there about the kind of different stages at which you can use courses, and I think that's really interesting because part of our sort of thinking and in our course that we have is about creating that kind of ecosystem of products whereby you may create something that could be a course for someone to do and work through before they start working with you, in order that you get people up to a stage where they have a certain understanding about a concept or a methodology, so that once you actually start the coaching work, you can really get into the kind of the sort of bones of the work, rather than having to spend the first few sessions going over stuff that may be sort of base level understanding that you want. So I think there's definitely a lot to be said for this kind of not just thinking about courses as products, but thinking about how a course could be a product, but it could also be part of that before, during and after suite that you're delivering. So I think that's really interesting around kind of creating those different courses, which will obviously be structured differently, but I think it's really interesting that the platform allows for that. It's
I think good. Before, during, and after is a good way to think about it. So, we also talk about try to reframe what you're doing around, instead of thinking about like, oh, I need to create a course, instead thinking about what is the overall customer journey that I'm trying to create. And that begins with discovery, right? How do people even hear about you and your work? Something I'm sure you talk about a lot in your community, right? Because that's like the fundamental challenge for getting started. And courses are actually often a very overlooked part of that, I think, because it's very powerful to position yourself as an authority, right? A teacher, that you're providing this opportunity to learn for people before they even really know you, right? Before you're asking them to pay anything. So in some ways, one of the most powerful discovery mechanisms, rather than offering people a free report or opt in for my free video series or whatever, is actually to offer a free mini course. Where you say like, hey, I'm giving you this entire course, this entire learning experience for free. It's a pretty compelling offer, right? A pretty compelling way to get people to take that first step with you. So it's perceived as valuable. It positions you as an authority, but it's also has the potential for actually being interactive, right? Of building a relationship with your prospective clients in a way that you can't do through passive content alone, right? So you could write an ebook to give away for people, and it could have really valuable information and insights in it, and that will be useful to people. But they go off and consume the ebook on their own. You have no idea what they're doing with it. There's no opportunity for really building a relationship there. Whereas in the course, you could post discussion prompts asking people to share their ideas or ask questions at specific points in the content. And depending on how much, where you are in your business and how much time you want to put into your kind of discovery experience, you might even ask people to submit assignments to you in the free course that you'd give them comments on. You could host, periodic webinars for that course community. There's just a ton that you can do there to build engagement and build relationships with people that you can't do with content alone. So I think that's a really good starting place for people to be looking at, and it's also where we see people like using the pre-built courses kind of most effectively, right? Because it's really easy to build a mini course that way, right? As opposed to saying like, okay, I need to like map out and write or record this new mini course from scratch. That's the kind of thing that often gets deferred.
What I'm really loving about this is how it kind of mirrors quite a lot of what we do talk about. So Simon and I have got a phrase which we like, which is it's almost like we knew what we were doing. And a lot of what you're talking to is actually, I guess what we have unconsciously designed into our own experience, probably because we've been in the business of doing marketing collectively for 40 years. So we kind of have a sense of the sort of ways in which people engage in services and products. But there's some really interesting comments in the chat. And one of them in particular that I'd like to draw attention to is whether or not one needs to finish a course for it to have been valuable. And one of the things that Simon and I have provided in the Coach's Marketing Journey course that we have available for our community is the idea that you don't need to finish it. We would love you to, and we've taken a lot of time and care in sort of generating the content, but it doesn't mean that if you don't finish it, you're dead in the water. And we offer a number of opportunities for interaction along the way, and exercises along the way to complete and buddy up with people to kind of be inspired by. And Carlos has suggested that it's only what people pay for that they're most likely to be incentivized to finish. And so I just wondered if you had any thoughts on that. And I also just wanted to say at this juncture that the other thing we talk about, Simon particularly says that one needs to hear something 11 times for it to have gone in. And I'm a massive fan of repurposing content, in the spirit of not burning out. And also because people need to hear things many times for it to go in. And I think what you're talking about is, having the content of the course be somewhere else first or second, but if you don't finish the course, you're not going to risk not seeing that thing anywhere else. So you're not going to miss out if you aren't somebody who is meticulously going to finish all of the courses all of the time, because frankly, who does? So I just wondered if you could talk about finishing a little bit, as it were.
Right. Well, again, I think it's important to distinguish the different types of courses we're talking about here, right? So sticking with the context of a free mini course as part of your customer discovery or as part of your marketing, I would see the goals there as being different from what you might be doing in a more intensive cohort-based course or signature program. So for the free mini course, like it's not that completion is unimportant. I do think mini courses should be designed with an eye towards helping people make progress and get meaningful value out of them, because that's what's going to get them interested in your deeper work, right? Like the point of the mini course is people should be getting ideally some kind of win from it that makes them feel like, wow, this is cool. I'm making progress, and I want more, right? As opposed to you want to avoid either extreme, right? You want to avoid teaching your entire method or putting 27 different modules and ideas into your free course such that people feel overwhelmed or even feel like they went to the buffet and ate a million things and now they're overstuffed and need a break, right? We want them hungry and wanting more. But on the flip side, it shouldn't be paper thin either, right? You don't want to just give people kind of fluff, right, under the veneer of it's going to be this valuable, interesting course. So try to find that sweet spot there, which I don't think you necessarily nail that on day one, right? The goal is to get something out there and then you improve it over time based on what you see people doing and what questions they're asking with your mini course. But another just kind of lens to keep in mind there is, like in general, course creators tend to have a bias towards content. And it's really good to balance that with having a bias towards implementation and action and application. And so, a simple way to apply that in your mini course is just think about how are you getting people to actually do something in this mini course, right? As opposed to just reading content, absorbing ideas, watching videos. How are you going to get them into action, and how is that action going to lead to wanting to work more deeply with you? So that's how I would approach it in the context of the mini course. We could also talk about it in the context of signature courses if you want, but that's a bit different.
I'm loving the metaphor of like buffet, all you can eat buffet, which is kind of not, affordable. And you go along thinking, right, I'm paying and I'm going to get loads, but then actually feeling a bit sort of sick after a couple of goings up to the buffet.
It's a very American metaphor.
Well, yeah, it's good. Or, are you going for a 5 course tasting menu with oh, sorry, my phone's actually ringing. It's meant to be on silent. Sorry. Petit nouvelle portion sizes of things, and then sort of almost like say wanting more, feeling like, but how do you feel satiated? What's that sweet spot where you feel like you've had the most incredible experience, but you weren't stuffed? And you might have paid a fortune for it, but it's all about not necessarily the amount of food that you ate, but the whole ceremony and the ritual around which you were served it, and who you had it with, and what were the smells and the sounds and the tastes and all the rest of it. Right.
That's more challenging to incorporate into an online mini course, but I understand the metaphor. I mean, I think a good way to think about it is at the discovery phase of your customer's journey, right? So people getting to know who you are and that you even exist. It's helpful to focus to an extent on problem awareness, right? So in a lot of domains, you need to help people become aware of and articulate the potential problem or pain point that they're ultimately going to need help with, right, as part of your coaching or your program or your course. So, very effective thing to do in your marketing in your mini course is help people develop that self-awareness, right? So a career coach who focuses on, burnout, her mini course might have a burnout questionnaire, right? Or, the 7 signs that you're potentially facing career burnout, right? So helping people become aware of that, the problem, and what it potentially looks like. And then, then potentially having some initial steps towards, okay, how do you begin addressing that problem? But the point of the mini course is not to provide the whole solution. The point of your coaching or your signature program is to provide the solution.
I think also the mini course concept, I think, plays really nicely into that thing that stops a lot of people creating a course, which I think is that kind of overwhelming feeling of this is going to take ages to make, or there's going to be so much work to create all of this. But actually the flip side of that, the problem then gets worse. The problem is then multiplied, because you then create a course that's so big and so complicated that people don't finish it. And I think, harking back to what Anya said in the chat earlier, she was saying, well, do people actually finish them? And I would say that, yes, people finish courses that are manageable and short and hold your attention. And I would say, actually, if you can make a mini course just around one topic, and you can kind of, hold your nerve and not go off on a tangent and not just fill it full of value and pack it full of extra stuff that you think people need to know. It's that thing of like, what's the kind of narrowest track you can get down? Because if people complete the course and they get the value out of it, then they might do another one. So you can then go on to add the value later. So I think this sort of whole concept of the appetite is a really nice one, because it's like, if you give people a small enough thing to digest and work through, then it becomes very manageable, A, to create, and B, to actually enjoy as a person taking the course.
That's right. But it's easier said than done, right? But
Yeah.
I think the approach that works is iteration. So it's about getting a version of that course going, whether that's your free mini course or it's your more in-depth paid program, and run it with real people with an eye towards understanding, okay, what worked, but what could be improved here. And most typically what you'll see is, what can be improved after the first time you have that experience is there was too much, right? There was too much content, too much for people to do, too much for them to absorb. And so in every course that we've run where, we had the time and the focus on it to go through those multiple iterations, what we end up doing is reducing and streamlining and simplifying with each iteration. And it's that honing away at the course to make it as focused and as minimal as possible that makes it really effective. And I've just found that to be very, very difficult to do unless you go through that process of running it with real people and then, make version 2, and then run it with real people and make version 3. Because it's when you're just looking at the course in the abstract, everything seems valuable. And so it's really hard to prune things away. But when you see what are people actually doing, where are they struggling, and where are they asking questions, that really changes how you look at it.
Yeah, and I think when we created our course, we did exactly that. And I think it helped us massively. So we have 6 chapters that even more helps it, right? They're like 6 mini courses in essence. But we got a handful of people to try chapter 1. And the key thing we asked them was there too much or too little? And what came back was there's slightly too much. Like, we like all the places you've taken us, but actually, do we need to go over here as well as over there? Can we just go straight? And it's, oh yeah, actually, now you've said that makes a lot more sense. So we went back and trimmed it, and that really set the tone for the next chapters, and that saved us so much work. Because otherwise, we would have written all 6 and put so much. We would have written a book's worth of stuff, and then said, what do you think? And people would have got like the first maybe 3 or 4 videos and been like, this is way too much. And we're like, imagine if we'd made all of that. So I think the iteration thing is a great idea. I think there's a lot to be said from getting feedback from people, as long as they're the right people for the course, as long as they're the target audience for the course and not just your friend, who may not have any context in the content. But I think actually giving it to someone who's right for it and saying, genuinely, is this too big, too small? How does it fit? And seeing what they say is a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, any feedback is better than none for sure. I think the most valuable, the richest learning comes from actually running the program, right? So if you're ultimately going to be, it's actually a little trickier for the mini course example. You might have to adapt it a little bit and offer like, hey, a free cohort, like everyone can sign up and take this for free. It's limited to 10 people, right? But you can take it for free and just give me your feedback. But have people that you can talk to and engage with, and that'll inform the mini course that then is open to everyone in the future. If you're doing a paid program, I think you should run it as a real, live paid program. Perhaps the first cohort is discounted because it's like, hey, this is my pilot version, or this is in beta, and I want your feedback. And so you get a discount. But like, the faster you can get real people going through the real experience, the faster it will improve. I mean, that also helps with like getting the course actually done, right? Whether that's, adapting a pre-built course or creating something from scratch, there are still like boxes that you have to check off your list to get it done. And courses are notorious for going unfinished. But what really helps to finish them is if you say to people, hey, I'm going to be offering this on October 7th, and I want you to sign up, and then suddenly you have to get it done.
There must be, what I'm thinking about as you're talking is a few things. One is sort of how to gather testimonials through a course. So about your work and the value of it, but also just in terms of capturing thoughts that can be used for marketing about why people are on the journey that they are and what it is that they're trying to achieve. And then just also gathering data that can be used statistically to kind of argue something that you're trying to get people clearer on. And, obviously making a course really accessible, either in terms of price point or just because you're incentivizing people well to kind of take it, means that you're going to make your life easier, and it's going to allow for more material that you can then use, obviously with people's permission. And I was just thinking, at the end of a course, how can you invite people to give you permission to use anonymously anything that they have actually provided by way of answers or examples that then you can use and capitalize on in terms of then attracting more people. So it's kind of firing off lots of marketing thoughts for me when you talk about making courses more accessible.
I mean, in terms of collecting testimonials, I think the richest approach is to use a more formal like case study method. So we generally suggest just like reach out to your participants at the kind of towards the end of a program and say like, hey, wanted to check in and see how things are going. Can we, set a time to chat for a few minutes? I think it's best done as a call, or ideally a video conference, so that you're getting that audio, ideally video, but also there's a back and forth, right? They're not just emailing you something. That won't be possible with everyone, but I think most people are happy to do that. And then, like, you basically want to conduct a little interview with them. You're asking people about, like, how did they, come to you, right? Why were they interested in this? Why did they sign up? What were the problems that led them to you? And then ask them about what their actual experience in the program was like, and what results or outcomes they got from it. And like capturing all that information, you can then turn that into a little kind of case study about what does it look like for a client to go through one of my programs. And then so that's you can also like if you just need like a testimonial to fit in a block on your sales page, you can extract short testimonials from that. But the case study itself is a more powerful artifact for people to review and provides credibility. But then it's also like a shareable object, right? So you can take that, share that out on social media, and you can ask your clients to share it as well to provide social proof. So that's the more labor intensive method, but I think is gives you a lot more juice, than just gathering like a 1 or 2 line testimonial. And especially if you're in the earlier stages of getting clients and ramping up courses, everything that you can do to establish like credibility and proof, right? Like the value of what you do is really, really important, right? And so a website or a sales page that has 2 or 3 of those case studies on it is going to be dramatically more convincing than one that doesn't. But I also think that, again, if you do need shorter testimonials, you'll get great, shorter testimonials that you can just pull out of that longer interview.
But the time has gone very fast today, and I want to make sure people know where to look for more fun stuff from you, because there's been a lot in today. I just want to acknowledge a really good point made by John Paul in the chat. People remember the peak and end of things, as I hope they will with this marketing masterclass. They often don't remember much more than that. So the length is probably less important than the actual experience. So again, another reason to try to get people through a course is that if you can design the beginning and end in a much more pointed way than necessarily all of it along the way. There's that. What I'm getting to is, how consistently engaging does a course need to be? Is there, as well as everything we've talked about, sort of theory around the experience of completing, which just in itself is very valuable, and giving people a sense of achievement, which is the kind of meta coaching that you're doing in designing a course. I want people to leave off from the experience feeling like they have themselves created a better future as a result of having engaged with you. So I just thought that was a really good point and wanted to bring it up just before we close off for the day. And also, I think we've done a lot of thinking about drawing on content that might not already be there, but just to go back to the beginning idea of, if you think you've got something really unique that only you want to write as a coach, what should you be thinking about focusing on first out of everything that we've talked about, and feeling like you're the author of it? So just final thoughts from you, Abe, on those things would be great.
In terms of, say a little bit more about that, I'm not sure.
Well, firstly, the idea of, do you think beginnings and endings are more important than a kind of consistent experience? Maybe I'll let you answer that one first, because I do this quite a lot. Simon tells me I ask 2 questions. Just stick with the one for now.
That is helpful. Yeah, I mean, I do generally buy that idea, and I do think it's worth paying special attention to beginnings and endings in a course. Obviously, that's only going to take you so far, if the middle is not also engaging, right? I mean, the middle is where people are going to drop off, right? If you're looking at progression, if you're looking at, are people actually watching my videos? Are they actually completing my assignments? The middle is where you're going to see that drop off. So, yes, you can enrich the experience by paying attention, especially to the beginning and end. But if you want people to get all the way through it, you also need to think about, okay, what's going to help people maintain momentum in that kind of messy middle where we know that they're going to struggle. So that's where really thinking about how is your whatever coaching, support, accountability you're going to provide in your program, how that's going to be structured, right? To make sure that the people are getting what they need from you in that area where they're likely to be dropping off a lot. So that's how I would approach that. I would see the beginning and the end more about just elevating the overall experience, but the middle is where you're likely to face those challenges of progression head on.
And that speaks nicely to Lucinda's excellent idea in here. I like the idea of delighting and surprising, the extra course not on the menu that you're not expecting, to continue the metaphor. Yeah, so maybe in the middle of a course you get a kind of oh, I totally wasn't expecting that, and that kind of incentivizes you to carry on, so it's sort of thinking not just about the content and the quality of what you're talking about and how much you care about it, but what the experience of going through the learning with you feels like. And back to what you said originally, how does that then make you want to take another step to working with you? Because if the course was such a lovely experience and made you feel surprise, delight, a sense of completion, clarity, as has been discussed in the chat, around what it is that you're actually here to achieve, then the implicit message there is, if you enjoyed that, there's loads of other stuff if you carry on working with me. So back to that idea of a course being a service, but also a course being a great marketing tool.
Yep.
Have you got any other bits and bobs that you would like to share, either of you, Simon or Abe, on the whole learning experience and maybe the emotional side of it, and sort of how you like to support people, Abe, as they're going along the way?
I mean, that's probably more of a question for the people here, right? I'd say it's more of a coaching thing. I'd be curious to hear people's thoughts or comments about what they found effective there. Like what strategies do people use with their clients to manage the process of change and help them stay, motivated through a learning experience or through a longer term coaching program. Or if you guys have thoughts on that too.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting for us. Every time I do a one-to-one or get a new one-to-one client, one of their questions is, what would you suggest that I do in terms of how to work through the CMJ material while we're working together? And I find myself saying, it's really easy to digest our course. You can listen to the videos while you're doing the washing up. They're about 3 minutes each, so it's not that hard. And yeah, why not do one every day? It would also be really a lovely way for us to kind of continue to be in touch in between our sessions, because I'd love to know how you're getting along the way. So I didn't think about that sort of stuff when we designed the course necessarily. We Simon and my agenda was to impart as much of our acquired knowledge in a way that we felt people could work through at their own pace, and was kind of going to provide a kind of the benchmark of what we think good marketing looks like, and was to provide the textbook that we could constantly refer back to if we wanted to talk about a particular subject and then invite people to read more about it. And it's where we could store as we continue to do, and we continue to add further reading, additional material that, to that curator point, we can show people that that we're drawing constantly on, on external resources to enhance. But I hadn't got so far in my thinking when we designed it that all of the other stuff that we were offering, we could continue to kind of go back to the course to back us up. And, it's like our footprint as well. It's like, oh, yeah, well, we talk about that on the course. I do it all the time. If you want to know more about it, check out this bit of the course. So I find it useful as well, because it's kind of like a library that I can reassure people they're not alone in, because we've bothered to create a course to speak to it, particularly on the emotional front. So if somebody I'm working with on a one-to-one basis is going through something, I'm like, this is what we talk about in the Limits Compass part of our course, in the mindset chapter, because you're not alone. This is exactly what we should be working on at this point. And that's really reassuring, I think, for people. So I do find that it underpins. I like that, Anya, a kind of creating a kind of ecosystem of Simon and my shtick, basically, is what our course does. It's like it's where it all lives. If you wanna, people talk about the Netflix of you. Well, Simon does. If you want the Netflix of us, you just need to just watch all the videos from beginning to end, because we don't say a huge much more than what we have in there actually. But to your point, we then take people on different experiences of it, because not everybody wants to read a course or watch videos. Anyway, I'm just waffling. Simon, any thoughts?
Well, yeah, I think it's been interesting to hear about how actually these sort of different flavours and sizes of course can really help with making, I guess, something that may have seemed quite daunting maybe at the beginning of the session for some listening, actually make it feel a bit more manageable, a bit more achievable. And I think supporting a lot of the work that coaches do is a fantastic way to get started with courses, even if it's just a private course that you only send to your clients and you give them, access to when they work with you, and you don't necessarily have to, shout about it and promote it to start with. You can build up from there and build up the courses as you go. I think it feels like a really manageable and exciting way, I think, to actually get started with, creating a learning experience that supports the work you do. So, it's been really interesting to hear more about it and your sort of approach to it as well. So if people want to connect with you, Abe, or they want to find out a little bit more about the platform that you run, where can they go? Feel free to pop a link in the chat.
I have a couple of resources I can share in the chat.
Sure, yeah, please do.
So first is a free workshop, about a 3-hour training. So you can check that out. The recording is just up, available online, no opt-in or anything. That also covered in there is our instant courses, the Done For You course model, and that package. So just be aware there is a pitch in there, but it's a recording, so you can also skip right over it. But if you find yourself intrigued by the pitch, there's a special discount in there that was done for this private community that the workshop is for. But I'm happy to extend it to everyone else here as well. Second thing is, if you want to see what our pre-built courses look like and the Ruzuku platform, this is a link to a free course that you can join on goal setting, like the example I mentioned. So you can see some of the content and also see what it's like to participate in a course on Ruzuku as a student. And then if you actually want to play around with creating your own course using our tools, we now have a completely free account. So you just go to ruzuku.com, which I'll put in the chat as well, and click Start for Free. Choose one of our templates, and you can create your own course entirely for free. The only limitation is how many students you can enroll. So you can enroll up to 5 students for free, and then if you want to keep enrolling students, you can choose a plan. But it's a nice way to get started because you don't have to worry about a subscription plan to create and test out an initial course.
Cool. That sounds like a really good way of people being able to try that out and give it a spin. So yeah, nice one. Thanks so much for sharing. And if you are listening on repeat, I will put those links in the description of the video and the podcast. So do check that out for those links. I've also shared Abe's LinkedIn there if you want to connect and follow along with what they're doing on LinkedIn.
I post absolutely nothing there, but feel free to connect. Always happy.
Oh, perfect. Okay, well, yeah. Good stuff.
I'm always happy to answer questions about courses too. People can always feel free to email abe@ruzuku.com.
Perfect. There we go. Good stuff. Nice one.
Simon's also running as one of their regular tools and technique sessions next week. I'll post a link in the chat here for anyone who's part of our community already. A session dedicated to creating an online course off the back of this conversation. So if anyone in our community would like to explore further and get some more information from Simon, who's done a lot of research into this and designed our course, then do join that session. Thanks so much for everyone's comments as well. It's been really nice to hear where everyone's at. Is it tomorrow? Is it tomorrow? No. It
is, yes, it is tomorrow.
Thanks, Anya. It's tomorrow. So...
so I was just looking up when it was and realised it was tomorrow.
Great, because we're really on it in terms of what we're delivering. Abe, thank you so much for your time today. It's been really lovely to reconnect with you, and it's been just a really important journey for me. definitely, in terms of learning. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation.
We will keep you all
Excellent. Thanks
posted
so
on the
much.
next Better, Bolder, Braver Marketing Masterclass.
All right, folks.
Thanks so much, everybody. Bye.